Hi, Cece. Welcome to week 5 of your timeline. The first motion on our timeline this week is Judah falls to Babylon, temple destroyed. Now, you might remember from previous weeks, we talked about Israel dividing into 2 kingdoms. In the north, we had the kingdom of Israel, and in the south, the kingdom of Judah. To create the sign for Judah, we're just going to do a J in sign language. You take your pinky and you trace a J in the air. Judah. You already know the sign for falls, and you already know the sign for Babylon. You might even be going into position to do it as I speak. That's right. We're making the L for the law, and we're placing it here and here on this stone tablet, just like the Code of Hammurabi. So when you put those all together, you get Judah falls to Babylon. One of the unfortunate consequences of Judah falling to Babylon is that the temple was destroyed. Remember, this is the first temple that gets destroyed, not the second one. Later on, the Jews will come rebuild the temple and it will get destroyed later. So much temple destroying! To make the sign for temple, you're going to make a T in sign language. To do that, you place your thumb between your fingers like this. T. And we say that we found our temples on a rock, or we found our faith on a rock. So a temple, here's the strong rock, and you build on top of it. And you're actually going to tap it twice, just like the syllables in temple. And for destroyed, we'll just spread our hands out. So that's temple destroyed. When we put it all together, we have Judah falls to Babylon, temple destroyed. But nothing lasts forever, because our next sign is Babylon falls to Persia. You already know the sign for Babylon, and you know the sign for falls. Now, Persia is a bit tricky. Some people are going to have you just create the letter P in sign language. But not only is that a tricky position to get your fingers into, I looked up the real ASL sign for Persia, and it's so memorable and hilarious. It's just a thumbs down tapped twice onto your hand. This couldn't possibly just mean an actual thumbs down for Persia. In fact, you could make several positive arguments for this sign, despite the fact that it looks a little silly. This sign is very similar to ASL for middle and center, which are both, one is like this and the other is like this. It's also very similar to the ASL for to be impressed, which is more like this. So this sign actually combines several other signs and hints at others to communicate that Persia was a central power that was very impressive. So it's a thumbs down while still being a thumbs up? Good job, Persia. Technically, this is the sign for Iran, which was called Persia until 1935. But it's such a crazy sign, and I feel like it's useful to know real ASL whenever we can. I'm going to suggest we use it. So that will be Babylon falls to Persia. Poor Persia. Now, just like I told you, the Jews are about to come back and rebuild the temple. The next sign is Jews. We did this before for Judah, but we'll still do Jews. Jews return and rebuild the temple. And you already know the sign for temple. It's that T founded on the rock. So once again, Jews return and rebuild the temple. Next, we have Roman Republic and Golden Age of Greece. For Roman, we're just going to make our R, the same way we did Romulus and Remus last time we were talking about Rome. But the Republic is something really special that we want to make sure that you remember. You've probably noticed that in the American Pledge of Allegiance, we pledge to the flag and the Republic for which it stands. That's because in the American government, many representatives vote to try to decide what happens to the people. We don't have a dictator deciding everything. The people get to have a say. Well, the same was true in the Roman Republic. There were many assemblies and senates who would gather to try to decide what was right to do. And this lasted for many, many generations, basically until Julius Caesar. Then it was like, Hail Caesar, emperor of what used to be the Roman Republic. It was not a good time. So to remember that Roman Republic, I'd like to suggest that after you make your R for Rome, you just cross your heart the same way we do in the Pledge of Allegiance. So it's Roman Republic. I'm torn on the sign for Golden Age of Greece. The assigned CC motion is the sign for gold, a golden earring. And you know what I'm going to say. Why do we keep repeating that sign? And also, what does it have to do with Greece? And also, Greece wasn't famous for actual physical gold. It was called the Golden Age of Greece because we had such wonderful literature, philosophy, and art come out of that age. It's especially famous for 3 philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates believed so much in the importance of truth and of sticking to truth once you've discovered it, that he was willing to drink hemlock rather than deny what he believed to be true. That image of Socrates drinking hemlock to die for his beliefs appears on a very famous painting by David. You can see him making his final point and raising a finger about what he believes in and holding the hemlock in his other hand. He's about to drink it stoically and calmly while all of his students turn away their faces in sadness and horror. But Socrates has such a strength of mind that he's willing to drink the poison. So I think that's a nice symbol for the golden age of Greece. And that means we need to make our philosophical point and hold our cup of hemlock. So when we put it all together, we have Roman Republic, golden age of Greece. Next, we have the Peloponnesian Wars. If you're anything like me, when you hear the word Peloponnesian, you think of maybe the Philippines or Tahiti. But in fact, the Peloponnesian Wars were fought in Greece, and they were fought by Greeks. 2 great city-states warred with one another. Athens versus Sparta. This is, if you've ever heard someone shout, "This is Sparta!" They're talking about the Peloponnesian Wars. CC suggests that you make the sign for G, Greek, and that you do a kind of curving helmet, which is the sign for Greece, so that is appropriate. But I think we should have a little bit more fun and give ourselves a way to remember that the Peloponnesian Wars were fought between Sparta and Athens. So what I'm going to suggest is that you make an S with your thumb in front and an A for Athens with your thumb on the side. Sparta, Athens, Sparta, Athens, Sparta, Athens. Peloponnesian Wars. And it's kind of like I declare a thumb war. Peloponnesian Wars. See how many times you can do it. Our last sign this week is Persia falls to Alexander the Great. So I'm going to suggest that same sign for Persia or Iran. Persia. But you have to do it without laughing. Persia falls, just like we've been doing before. For Alexander the Great, we're going to do an A again, just like we did just now for Athens. A, and then we'll do the sign for great. Great. When you put that all together, it's Persia falls to Alexander the Great. Ready to put it all together? 3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, here we go. Timeline, this is my timeline. Timeline, this is my timeline. Timeline, timeline. We'll start at the beginning of the ages. Age of ancient empires. Creation to circa 450 AD. Creation and the fall, the flood and the Tower of Babel, Mesopotamia and Sumer Egyptians. 3000 BC, 3000 BC. Indus River Valley civilization, Minoans and Mycenaeans. 7 wonders of the ancient world, patriarchs of Israel. 2000 BC, 2000 BC, Hittites and Canaanites, Cush, Assyrians, Babylonians, China, Shang Dynasty, Hinduism in India, Phoenicians and the alphabet, Olmecs of Mesoamerica, Israelite exodus and desert wandering, Israelite conquest and judges, Greek dark ages, Israel's united kingdom. 1000 BC, 1000 BC, early Native Americans. Israel divides into 2 kingdoms. Mysiad, Rome founded by Romulus and Remus. Israel falls to Assyria, Assyria falls to Babylon. Lao Tzu, Confucius, Buddha. Judah falls to Babylon, temple destroyed. Babylon falls to Persia, Jews return and rebuild the temple. Roman Republic, Golden Age of Greece, Peloponnesian Wars. Persia falls to Alexander the Great. India's Mauryan Empire, Mayans of Mesoamerica, Punic Wars, Rome conquers Greece. Roman dictator Julius Caesar, Caesar Augustus and the Pax Romana. John the Baptist, Jesus the Messiah. Year 1 AD, year 1 AD, year 1 AD. Pentecost and the early church. Persecution spreads the gospel. Herod's temple destroyed by Titus. Diocletian divides the Roman Empire. Constantine legalizes Christianity. India's Gupta dynasty. Council of Nicaea, Augustine of Hippo. Jerome completes the Vulgate, Visigoths at Rome. The Middle Ages, circa 450 to circa 1500. Council of Chalcedon, Western Roman Empire falls to barbarians.
500 AD, 500 AD. Byzantine Emperor Justinian.
Benedict and monasticism. Mohammed founds Islam.
Zanzibar early Ghana in Africa. Franks defeat Muslims at the Battle of Tours.
Golden Age of Islam. Ooh.
Vikings raid and trade. Japan's imperial. Charlemagne crowned Emperor of Europe. Alfred the Great of England. Eric the Red and Leif Erikson, Norse explorers. Vladimir the First of Kiev, Byzantine Emperor Basil II. 1000 AD, 1000 AD.
East-West schism of the church. Norman conquest and feudalism in Europe. The Crusades in Zimbabwe and early Mali in Africa. Aztecs of Mesoamerica. Francis of Assisi and Thomas Aquinas. Japan shoguns, Incas of South America. Genghis Khan rules the Mongols. England's Magna Carta. Ottoman Empire. Marco Polo's journey to China. The 100 Years' War and Black Death. The Renaissance. China's Ming Dynasty. Age of exploration, circa 1400 to circa 1600. Prince Henry founds School of Navigation, slave trade in Africa. Gutenberg's printing press, Songhai in Africa. Tsar Ivan the Great of Russia, the Spanish Inquisition.
circa 1800.
Protestant Reformation, Spanish conquistadors in the Americas, Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion, Council of Trent, the Baroque period of the arts, Japan's isolation, Jamestown and Plymouth colony founded, Age of Enlightenment, circa 1650 to circa 1800, Hudson's Bay Company, First Great Awakening, classical period of the arts, the 7 Years' War. Age of Industry, circa 1760 to circa 1969. James Cook sails to Australia and Antarctica. American Revolution and General George Washington. Madison's Constitution and the Bill of Rights. French Revolution, Second Great Awakening. Louisiana Purchase and Lewis and Clark Expedition. Napoleon crowned Emperor of France. Liberation of South America. The War of 1812, the Missouri Compromise. Immigrants flock to America. The Monroe Doctrine, romantic period of the arts. Cherokee Trail of Tears, U.S. westward expansion.
Marx publishes the Communist Manifesto.
The Compromise of 1850 and the Dred Scott Decision. U.S. restores trade with Japan. British Queen Victoria's rule over India. Darwin publishes
The Origin of Species.
Lincoln's War between the states. Reconstruction of the southern states. Dominion of Canada. Otto von Bismarck unifies Germany. Wars in Africa. The Spanish-American War. The Progressive Era. Australia becomes a commonwealth. Mexican Revolution. World War I and President Wilson. Lenin and the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. U.S. evangelist Billy Graham. Modern period of the arts. The Great Depression and the New Deal. World War II and President Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Stalin of the USSR and the Katyn Massacre.
The United Nations formed. The Cold War. Gandhi and India's independence. Jewish state established. Mao and communist victory in China. North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The Korean War.
Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement.
Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, missionaries to Ecuador, the Antarctic Treaty, the Vietnam War. U.S. astronauts walk on the moon.
On the LNP. Yeah.
Age of Information and Globalization, circa 1970 to the present. Watergate, President Nixon resigns.
au revoir.
Fall of communism in Eastern Europe. European Union formed. Apartheid abolished in South Africa. 2000 AD, 2000 AD, September 11th, 2001.
Our fellow citizens are waiting.
Rising tide of freedom, rising tide